Welcome to Daily Devo. I'm Pat. Today we're going to talk about Gethsemane moments. It's late, but the light of the full moon illuminates the way for the 12 men as they wind through the narrow streets and exit the city gate, drop down through the valley that's called Kidron, and climb up the hill sheltered with a plethora of olive trees. One of the men stands out from the other 11, not due to any specific physical attribute, but because of his countenance, because of the way he carries himself. His shoulders are slumped, his back is bowed, his head is slightly dropped, his face is contorted with sadness and agony as if he carries the weight of the world. In many ways, he was. In many ways, he was carrying the weight of the world. It's the last night of Jesus' life. They finish the Passover meal. Judas is left to finish his act of betrayal, and Jesus, along with his 11 remaining followers, make their way out of Jerusalem to the top of the Mount of Olives. And Jesus is well aware of the horrors that are about to invade him. In fact, the assault has already begun. In Mark chapter 14, in verses 12 through 14, it says, "They went to the olive grove called Gethsemane, and Jesus said, 'Sit here while I go and pray.' He took Peter, James, and John with him, and he became deeply troubled and distressed. He told them, 'My soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me.'" Listen to these descriptions of Jesus' pain. Deeply troubled, distressed, crushed with grief, to the point of death. Eugene Peterson paraphrases these verses this way. He says, Jesus was plunged into a sinkhole of dreadful agony. I can't imagine, because he is literally beginning to take on the weight of the world's sin. He's beginning to feel the physical, emotional, and spiritual horrors that he will endure over the next 24 hours. And in the midst of this ugly, heart-wrenching story, there's an important lesson of hope for you and me. While we may never feel the level of pain and suffering that Jesus experienced, there's no doubt that we have all been deeply troubled. We've all been distressed. We've all been crushed with grief. Or as Eugene Peterson said, we've all plunged into a sinkhole of dreadful agony. So what do we do in these times? Well, for one, do what Jesus did and have your Gethsemane moment. Don't try to run from the pain. Don't try to ignore the grief. Don't pretend you aren't distressed. Don't put on some facade as if you aren't in a sinkhole of dreadful agony. Embrace that Gethsemane moment and do what Jesus did. Get on your knees, fall on your face, lay on your bed, and weep. And cry out to God, not in some fake religious way, but say what you need to say and feel what you need to feel. Recently, I had a young man approach me and share with some struggles that he was having, primarily around the frustrations and anger, even toward God, that he was feeling. And I encourage him to be completely honest with God. I mean, there's nothing that you and I could tell God about how we feel that he doesn't already know. In fact, I said it this way to that young man. I said, maybe what you need to do is go have your Gethsemane moment. He did. And several days later, I saw him, and he mentioned how it was helping, how it had begun breaking down a wall that had somehow come up between he and God. Listen, Gethsemane moments are necessary as we journey through this broken world. At times, you and I will need them. Gethsemane moments. Jesus had one, and it's okay for you and me to have one.